Great. So now you know you need to register for classes. So how do you go about doing that? Well, let's just say that during the ASEP workshop, you created this sample schedule and you chose to take Math 227, English 101, AJ1, and Chicano 52, and that you also decided to take the support classes with the English and Math class. So that means we have to look for Math 227S and English 72 in addition to the English 101 and the schedule of classes to see if they're being offered remotely or just online. So then how do you find the schedule of classes? Well, you're going to have to go to our website, www.lemission.edu. So let's go there now. So after going to the website, lemission.edu, you're going to land on this page, and then you're going to click on Schedule/Catalog button. So let's click there. This is going to bring us to the list of schedules and the catalog, which is down here. But because we want the fall 2020 schedule, we're going to actually click on this little link here that says Schedule of Classes PDF. Why do we want to do that one? Because we want to see what classes are being offered via internet or via remote. So let's click there. And now we're going to look for the classes. Now the schedule is organized alphabetically. So the first class we're going to come across will be AJ. AJ1, here it is. And AJ1 is actually only being offered one section, and it's only offered via internet, which means no scheduled classes. So the thing that you want to do now is take a piece of paper and write down for each class the name of the class, AJ1, the section number, so the section number is 14038, this first number you see here. If it has a start and end time, in this case it doesn't because it's being offered remotely, and then what days and one instructor. So in this case, we're going to just write the section number, the instructor, Hart, and that it's offered internet. And so because it's being offered by the internet, then we don't need to schedule it at any particular time. In just a second, I'm going to show you a link online that you can use to start scheduling your classes. It'll make it easier so that you can organize yourself appropriately. Now, the next thing you need to keep in mind is if you are intending on enrolling in the LA College Promise program, we encourage you to take Counseling 17 and or Counseling 22. These two classes are one unit, and if we look here, the Counseling 17 is being offered remotely by two different professors, Professor Schwartz and Professor Bonilla-Hine. That's me. So for these classes, again, we want to read the fine print, and it says, disregard the meeting days and times listed for this class. So because it says remote, it does, however, say that this class will be conducted remotely and online with no required virtual schedule meetings. That's why they said to disregard this time. As well as for my class. It normally would have met on Wednesdays from 4:20 to 6:25 p.m. But again, it says there will be no required virtual schedule meetings. Disregard the meeting time and the day when scheduling this class. So if, let's just say you were to take Counseling 17 with myself, then you can just schedule that whenever you want because there will be no required meeting times. However, you do have to follow the Canvas shell and meet all the deadlines in order to make sure you're going to pass the class. The same thing goes for Counseling 22. Again, this says no required virtual schedule meeting times. So if you wanted to take Counseling 22 for one unit, then that would be at your own pace. These classes, again, are highly recommended. Counseling 72 does help with college survival skills and learning to be an amazing college student with great study skills and learning styles and self-esteem, time management, stress management, and goal setting. These are all the things that we cover in Counseling 22. And then also in 22, we talk about the transfer process and we create a plan in order to transfer to a 4-year college or university. And then the next class that you scheduled would be Chicano 52. So let's take a look at the Chicano classes down here. And so we come across Chicano 52 here. And so we see that for Chicano 52, there's actually 3 sections. One of them is remote, and then the other 2 are internet. So let's say you wanted to take this remote class. Now, this one does say some required virtual schedule meeting. Please consider the schedule time, right? So for this one, let's write on our paper the section number 15188, the time 6:50 to 10 p.m. on Mondays, and that it's remote. And so this is one class that we will need to schedule on our scheduler. So next we come to the English sections, and here we have English 72. And because we decided to take English 72 along with English 101 as a co-rec, we have to see what classes are being offered. So here we see the first one is with Professor Zanes, and that this one is a lab, and the section number is 220. It's from 10:35 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Tuesdays, that's the first T, and Thursdays, the TH. So, but it also says student must register in English 72 first. This class is paired with English 101, section 242. So when you go register for classes, you first want to register for English 72, whichever section works for your schedule, and then you do the English 101. If I were to be taking this class, since I know I'm not a morning person, I would probably choose perhaps this section here with Dr. Quinn. So I would write my section number on my list, 222, from 1:55 to 3:20 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I'm going to go find English 101, section 223. So if I scroll down here, I see here is Dr. Quinn's English section, 223 section number, and that is from 12:15 to 1:40 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I would need to carve out time on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12:15 to 1:40, and then after that, we would do the English 72 section with the same professor from 1:55 to 3:20 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So now we have the math classes, and here we have Math 227A. So you could decide to take the Math Statistics 227 in two different parts. You could first take 227A for 2 units in the fall, and then you would take 227B in the spring semester, and that would be the second part. Or you can decide to do the 227S with support for 4 units. So if we decided to do that class, these are the classes that are being offered. And so these are remote classes. So again, we want to read the fine print, and it says online with required virtual meeting times, right? So we want to consider this class time when scheduling this class. So again, I'm not a morning person, so I am going to take a later class, and probably let's do this 12:15 to 1:40. Oh no, see, if I did that, that would conflict with the English classes. So I might want to do instead maybe Mondays and Wednesdays from 12:15 to 1:40 with Jafari. So it's important to note the section, right? So that's what I'm going to write down, 20182, 12:15 to 1:40, Mondays and Wednesdays. However, please note that this class has both a lecture and a lab. So when you look at these classes, you make sure that you're not forgetting the lab component. So here I would have to start at 10:40 a.m. to 12:05 for the first part, and then the lab would start at 12:15 to 1:40. So I also have to make note of this section number here, 20181. And it's, very similar to this one, 20182. So that would make sense, lecture and lab together. So for this professor, I would have to take both of these classes here. So I want to make a note of that. So let me write that down. Okay, so now we've got 5 classes. We have the AJ, we have the Chicano 52, the English 72, the English 101. Those are the 5. Plus, you're also going to take one of the counseling classes, either Counseling 17 or Counseling 22. So now, let's take a look at the scheduler. So in the module, we gave you a link to this scheduler online that you can fill in. And now that you made your list, you can type it in. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here we have our fillable schedule, and we've inputted the classes that you have selected, Math 227 and English 101. These are the ones that are being taught remotely, so that we need to take into consideration the time. So that is why we put him here on Mondays and Wednesdays for the math, starting at 10:40 is the lecture. And then it goes into the lab starting at 12:15 and it ends at 1:40. And that's both Mondays and Wednesdays. And then the English 101 starts on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12:15 and it goes till 1:40. And then the English 72 starts at 1:55 and it goes to 3:20 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The other classes, which are Counseling 17, Chicano 52, and AJ1, we don't have to put on a particular schedule because we don't have to remember to log on to a Zoom lecture or class discussion, but we should put them on the schedule at some point in here just to remind us to be able to work on them. So let's do that now. Okay, so now we have all our classes on here. I've highlighted the Chicano 52 and the AJ1 as well as the Counseling 22 in yellow, just to remind me that these are internet classes. They're not remote, so I don't have to necessarily have a particular time and day I need to reserve to meet online with the professor, but I do need to create time to study and do the work. Now, why did I schedule an hour and a half on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Chicano 52? Well, because Chicano 52 is a 3-unit class. And remember, we spoke before about units and how 1 unit is equivalent to 1 hour of instruction time. So if it's a 3-unit class, that means it's 3 hours a week of instruction time. So then you would have to structure that for yourself. So that's why I did an hour and a half, Tuesdays and Thursdays, totaling 3 hours a week. Same thing for AJ, it is a 3-unit class, so we did the same thing. Now for Counseling 22 or 17, these classes are 1 unit, but because it's offered in 8 weeks instead of 16 weeks, we now have to double that time. So instead of 1 hour a week, we're going to do 2 hours a week because you're only taking it for 8 weeks instead of these other classes that are being offered for the full 16 weeks. So that's why we only did 2 hours here per week for either one of these classes. Now, the last thing you want to do is carve out your study time. Because you're taking a total of 15 units, if we were to multiply 15 times 2, that means we have to somehow incorporate 30 hours a week of study time. So let's do that now. So here we inputted the 30 hours of study time, which is going to be on Sundays from 12 to 4, and then Mondays from 5 to 7:30, Tuesdays from 4 to 7:30, Wednesdays from 5 to 7:30, Thursdays 4 to 7:30, and then Fridays and Saturdays longer study sessions from 10 to 3:30, take a break on Saturday, or on Friday actually, and then you'll have another study session from 4 to 7:30. And then finally on Saturday, you'll have a shorter study session here. But all of this will equal 30 hours of study time outside of class time. So this is why it's so important that if you are going to be taking a full load, that you're not working full time and that you're working part-time. Because as you see here, it's already going to be hard to work a full-time schedule. You are going to be lucky to input here 20 hours of work time. If you are going to be working part-time, it would have to be sometime in the mornings or in the afternoons. But even though you're taking these internet classes that don't require any class time, you still need to carve out time to do the work, which is why we put them on the schedule. So I hope that this has been helpful, and please reach out to the Student Success Center if you still need more help adding classes. Now that you have your schedule, you can go and add classes. And you will see another video in this module to show you how to add classes.